Morning. All right, you ready, Zach?
Rattle, rattle.
Mic check.
Rattle the cage.
Good to go?
And so I'm hoping that you'll stand by me.
I stand by you. I stand by you.
Let me know when you're ready.
I got it. Good morning. That's Chief's hip. Is he right?
Podium mic check. Podium mic check. Commissioner Howell mic check. Commissioner Howell mic check. Commissioner Lopez mic check. Commissioner Lopez mic check. Commissioner Batey mic check. Commissioner Batey mic check. Commissioner Dennis mic check. Commissioner Dennis mic check. Commissioner Meitzner mic check. Mr. Meitzner mic check. Justin Wagner mic check. Justin Wagner mic check. County Clerk mic check. County Clerk mic check. Tom Stoltz mic check. Tom Stoltz mic check. 1 minute. Thirty seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Sedgwick County Board of County Commission meeting. We're glad you're joining us. Those that are joining us online, Facebook and YouTube, welcome. Those that are joining us on our television partner, KPTS, and those that are here in person, all your shiny faces, your bright smiles, welcome. We're glad that you're here today. When you walked in, I want to remind you, you could have picked up a meeting agenda outline, kind of follow the meeting. You can also get all the supporting documents that the commission has at our disposal. You can also access all of that online at sedgwickcounty.org. We encourage you to look at all the supporting documents. As we look at the order of business today, we're going to make a small adjustment. Our sheriff and our district attorney are here today, and they have some business they need to tend to. So if you look at item D on the new business, we are going to push that down, and we are going to do items E and F for our district attorney and sheriff's office. We're going to do items E and F above D. Small change in the schedule. Clerk, so just know that as we go, but won't change the time, just change the order. But we want to make sure that our sheriff and our DA can get back to the things that they're working on today. So with that being said, I'll officially call the meeting to order for September 4th, 2024. Madam Clerk, first item, please.
Invocation to be led by a moment of silence. Please remain standing for the flag salute.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. Next item, please.
Roll call. Commissioner Meitzner.
Present.
Commissioner Dennis.
Present.
Commissioner Howell.
Present.
Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Beatty.
Present. Next item.
County announcements.
Good morning, Stephanie.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. I'm Stephanie Birmingham, Strategic Communications. This past Saturday, Sedgwick County recognized National Overdose Awareness Day by sharing a video to social media that features our sheriff demonstrating how to administer Narcan if you find someone overdosing. It's good information, so we'd like to show it again now.
Hello, I'm Jeff Easter with the Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office. Fentanyl is taking over our communities and killing our loved ones. We're going to demonstrate to you how to help someone that is overdosing on fentanyl. First of all, this is what fentanyl looks like. It comes in powder form or pills, often disguised to look like prescription drugs. The tiniest amount, just 2 milligrams, is enough to kill someone. If someone is overdosing, you need to recognize the symptoms and act fast. Here are some of the signs you might see. Slow breathing, cold, clammy skin, blue-colored lips and fingernails, nausea, dizziness, and drowsiness. At this point, call 911 right away. If you have Narcan with you, administer it immediately. If you know their name, say their name and shake them. Jackie, wake up. If that doesn't work, administer a chest rub. If that doesn't work, tilt the head back, administer the Narcan, and then roll them onto their side. To learn more about fentanyl and resources to help, visit the Sedgwick County website. And remember, one pill can kill.
And Sheriff Easter is with us today to tell us a little more about fentanyl prevention.
Yeah, very good. Sheriff, thank you for that video. That is helpful. Good morning.
Good morning. I don't have much more to talk about than don't do fentanyl, and we won't have to do that. But, we're still seeing a surge of fentanyl in this community. I just read a report the other day. Our narcotics combined unit with the police department has seized over 750,000 pills so far this year, and it's September. We're starting to see more powder fentanyl, which is even deadlier. And those things are, we're intercepting it coming here, but we're also seeing it in search warrants that we're doing and those type of things cut into other type of drugs. So it's still here. It seems to be expanding, to be real honest with you, when we're talking about the powder form. And we're still having overdoses every day in this community.
Wow. Sheriff, a couple questions. I don't want to catch you off guard on this, but I get a lot of questions from my district about the opioid settlement funds, this national settlement, and what we're receiving here in Sedgwick County and the state, and how they're being deployed. Do you have any update whatsoever what that looks like and how we're actually using those funds to counter some of the opioid crisis that we're dealing with?
Yeah. So far, I represent the county in the combined with the city of Wichita. Was hired. You guys hired the Stedman Group to work through this with the community. So we have community partners on the consortium, and we're working through the strategic plan to give you guys in the city of Wichita a good plan to go by of what the community would like to see those funds used for. And that should be to you guys, we think, by the end of this year.
Very good. So we're working with the city of Wichita on this. Good.
Yes.
Appreciate that. A few questions. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Sheriff, for that video. It's really great. I've never actually seen how that's been done, so this is really useful to me, and I'm sure others as well. One thing I want to stress, though, and you're welcome, I'd like to encourage your comments as well if you agree, but one of the misunderstandings is that one dose of Narcan solves the problem. And I know I see a lot of EMS folks in the back, and I know I've talked with some of our first responders, and they talk about sometimes they have to give many doses to bring someone back. So the idea that you have one dose of Narcan standing by, that doesn't necessarily that may not be enough to save someone. So can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah, EMS would probably be able to tell you a lot more stories
Sure.
of how much they're using. I know from our standpoint, we've used as many as 5 doses of Narcan to bring people back.
Okay, so yeah, I just think that
Very rarely are we seeing any more that one dose works.
I think that's so important to know that, because some people think that having one dose is going to solve the problem, and I want them to know that's not likely to be true. Thank you so much, Sheriff.
Sheriff, a follow-up question. There is a strain of fentanyl known as Tranq that is resistant to Narcan. Are we seeing any of that? I know that is prevalent on the coast. Are we seeing any of that in this community?
We have seized fentanyl laced with a tranquilizing drug that's in it. It's called xylazine. And so our lab, Shelley's not here today, but our lab has been testing for that for quite some time, and we are seeing that here as well.
That's incredibly
And
unfortunate.
the problem is if you administer Narcan, it doesn't offset xylazine, which also suppresses your respiratory system, and you can die from that as well.
Okay. Any other questions for the sheriff on this? The video is very helpful. I think we're going to share that on social media channels and such. Sheriff, thank you so much for coming and giving the update on the opioid settlement funds too. That's helpful.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.
September is National Preparedness Month, when Sedgwick County Emergency Management urges families to make a plan and practice what to do during a disaster. It's especially important to include children and pets in that plan. We prepared a short video to explain. Come here.
Families need to plan for disaster before things happen, so that way it can be practiced. Everyone is familiar with what the plan is. When crisis hits, you're not trying to think of things on the spot, because when the emotions come in, the adrenaline comes in, you might not have time to be thinking about what you should be doing.
Communication is key. If children are away at school or a friend's house when disaster strikes, they need to know how to reach their family.
Definitely follow the advice of the grown-ups that are in charge of wherever you're at, but also knowing names, knowing numbers and addresses of where your family is from and how to contact them.
Decide in advance where to meet after a disaster in case cell phones are down. And prepare a kit with enough food, water, and medicine to last 3 to 4 days until help arrives.
Kids are going to be scared, they're going to be bored, their routine has been interrupted. So having things, puzzles, games, coloring books, things that don't require electricity to keep them entertained and comfortable during a disaster.
Pet preparedness is also important. Pack these supplies plus vaccination records and have a leash and crate handy so animals won't run away and get lost.
They're scared to death. They're scared to death. They're either going to cringe or some of them are going to become very aggressive. We're trained to look for that and know how to deal with that.
The Sedgwick County Animal Response Team sets up shelters for animals after a disaster.
We take care of the pets, Salvation Army takes care of the people, the Red Cross, and then we reunite after said period of time. So take a selfie holding your cat or holding your dog, and believe me, that's very important at reclamation.
To learn more about disaster preparedness, visit the Sedgwick County website.
And just as we encourage others to prepare, we also are training our employees. The emergency management team is always sharpening its skills for disaster readiness. 2 employees recently completed the National Emergency Management Basic Academy. And there you see Kenji Brooks in the middle there with a big smile. And here is Jonathan Schropfer. Similar to a police or fire academy, the academy they attended for 3 weeks provides a foundational education in emergency management. Kenji and Jonathan completed 5 different courses at the academy and had to do 12 prerequisites before they even got there. So it is a big accomplishment. I'm going to ask both of them to come up with Emergency Management Director Julie Stimson.
Julie, good morning.
Right. So, good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. Julie Stimson, Sedgwick County Emergency Management Director. I appreciate the opportunity to recognize Jonathan and Kenji's accomplishments. Not a lot of folks realize that emergency management has these academies in place. They're not a required training, but they are a great foundational academy to network and also get those foundational skills that we need as emergency managers. So it was rough having them out of the office for that long a time, but we're very happy to have them back. And this is their step 1 for their career progression, and they should be getting their certifications here very soon. So again, thank you for the opportunity for giving me the time to recognize their accomplishments.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Julie. And Kenji, Jonathan, congratulations on that. Thank you for the work you put in to make sure that you're credentialed and prepared to assist this community whenever disaster does strike. We appreciate you greatly.
Yep. Thank you.
Very good.
So get staff preparedness out of the way. Like the video showed, September is National Preparedness Month, and every year we come up and we encourage folks to set up their disaster kits and their plans. And but we rarely talk about children and pets. And if our children and pets aren't also part of our planning process, things can become really messy for things. So this month's campaign, we're going to send out information for pets and children and things to think about. Communication is critical, especially if you're separated from children and pets. So that was why we wanted to make sure we emphasize the point of having good contact information. Make sure that if you have pets that they're microchipped with current address and contact information. That's the easiest way to get reunited with your pets. And although it may be tempting to avoid the conversations, especially with the youth, you don't want them to worry about things that may or may not happen. It is critical to get them prepared because you don't want them to be scared and then trying to think on the fly of what they need to do. So start the conversation today. This is a good month to have those conversations and engage children in the disaster planning. Let them pack comfort items if they have a favorite stuffed animal or a blanket. Like the video showed too, activities that don't require electricity, something to keep them entertained because no matter the reason, if we're without power for a while, we know kids are going to go crazy without their internet and their tablets and things. So it can be actually a lot of fun. It kind of brings board games and puzzles back into the life. So we just encourage folks to visit our webpage. We will be, our comms team will be helping to share information on social media throughout the month on some topics. And if Ready.gov is another great website that has all kinds of disaster preparedness templates, checklists. It's specific to households, children, pets, businesses. It's got a plethora of information to help folks design their kits for their individuals. So and that is all I have.
Wonderful info. Any questions or comments for Julie? Good job as usual.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and I am excited to introduce another hometown hero. There we go. Cake TV recently honored Julie Hackney, a paramedic with Sedgwick County EMS, who along with her team saved the life of a cardiac arrest patient. The Wind Surge baseball team recognized Julie at last Saturday's game, gave her that commemorative jersey, and played this video on the big screen.
To remember what happened, but I think it's probably good I don't.
For 68-year-old Neil Sykes, it's all a blur on how he went into cardiac arrest. His wife called 911 when she found him slumped over the seat. An EMS crew of 3 responded. The lead medic was Julie Hackney.
I feel like I was just doing my job. Like I don't feel like I was anybody special that day. Just doing my job, doing what I love.
Hackney was in charge of the call and wrote the ticket. Sykes credits Hackney and the EMS team the fact he's able to breathe. Hackney and her team worked to bring him back with multiple rounds of medication and 5 defibrillations. Sykes then regained a pulse and the crew took him to the hospital as he survived.
The aftermath was kind of painful, but that just means they did the compressions right, the chest compressions right, and I cannot complain about anything. I think they're the best.
Hackney says once they drop off a patient at the hospital, it's uncommon to hear about an outcome. So this somber moment was something she wasn't expecting.
We got in contact with the hospital to find out what the outcome was, and we found out that he did survive and everything he went through. My partner and I, obviously, we were ecstatic.
Saving Sykes for Hackney with her partner was emotional because of the connection they had when Hackney went to EMS school.
It was kind of bittersweet because my partner was also my preceptor when I went to school. So to be able to have a save with her just made the call even more bittersweet.
Wow.
Okay. And we are so happy to have Neil Sykes and his wife here today, along with the EMS team that responded that day. EMS Deputy Chief Angela Fuller is here to make some announcements.
Deputy Chief, good to see you.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Chief Landerman couldn't be here today, so Angela Fuller, Deputy Chief of EMS. First response is difficult. Our job is difficult. Being a paramedic is difficult, and people always ask, what is your why? So it is my pleasure to introduce what our why is today. So I'd like to introduce Neil Sykes and his wife, Debbie, paramedic Julie Hackney, paramedic Brooke Gherkin, and Major Kathy Balmer.
Yeah, very good. Julie?
No.
Hometown hero.
Thank you. A few things. First of all, thank you to Neil and his wife both for allowing us to share your story.
Yeah.
You know, that's not something easy to relive, but we are happy that he's here to do so. Also, big shout out to to the crew that I was with that day. We wouldn't be standing here if we didn't all work as a team. Like I said, my Brooke partner, just fun fact for you, I was one of the first graduating E2P recipients. So
Wow.
thank you guys for that opportunity to be able, otherwise I wouldn't be standing here. So anyway, yeah, big team effort. I couldn't have done it without them, so.
Beautiful, beautiful. Mr. Sides, how are you feeling?
Very good, yes. Yeah, I can't thank them enough. Yeah, it was a team effort, and it's just good to be here on this side of the grass. And
yes, sir.
Can't thank them enough. Excellent service, and I hope they're getting all the support and continue to get support and funding that they need, because it's an important service.
Well, wonderful, sir. We're glad you're here today. We're glad you're feeling better, and we appreciate you, the entire team from EMS, all the efforts you do. And this is one story of many stories that happen every single day in this community, and we're able to tell this story, and you're here to celebrate exactly what it is that these great people do every single day in this community. So it's fun to tell your story. You are heroes every day, and today we get to celebrate you even more. So we want to get some pictures with you guys, if that's okay, out in the hallway. But first, before we do that, let's just give you one more round of applause. Thank you again. Appreciate you. Hang tight. As soon as we finish our community announcements, we'll grab a couple pictures.
Actually, I can't top that, so that's
you
it
can't.
for me.
That's good. Commissioners, any questions or comments for Stephanie? Okay, very good. Give us 5 minutes. We want to go take some pictures and celebrate this group. We'll be right back.
You watch that.
Okay, we are back. What a wonderful, wonderful tribute, and I appreciate Stephanie and the comms team for you guys coordinating all those county announcements. It is good to be able to come and celebrate some of the good things going on here in Sedgwick County. So, what a great day. What a great testimony. Okay, Madam Clerk, next item.
Public agenda.
Okay, we had two people originally sign up for public comment. One of them has withdrawn her request to speak. So we have one person, Miss Faith Martin. Good morning, Faith. Welcome.
Good morning. Faith Martin, 608 South Drury. I'm not as prepared as I normally am because I didn't know I was going to be in this meeting today. So I'd like to talk about two things. Firstly, I did send out an email to all the commissioners in lieu of public comment. So just revisiting that. There's a policy that's on the agenda today about apportioning 1/2 of the existing sales taxes collected to quality of life functions. And my concern is this is being proposed without getting any public comment from advisory boards or communities. I appreciate the robust community engagement that the solar panels had, that the budget process had. There's been a lot of community engagement to find out how this would affect people. And this feels like it just is disappointing to me that we would be talking about something without bringing in what a taxpayers consider core services. Because I know I've mentioned this before in previous public comment. What's a core service to me may not be a core service to someone else. I live in Southeast Wichita. Someone that lives in rural Sedgwick County probably has different needs. I don't have children living at home. People with small children or elderly people may have different needs. So I really feel like we should delay this vote until you've heard from the public, because sales tax collections are down nationally because consumer spending has declined. So moving something to sales tax without really finding out what the impact would be and what people think doesn't seem like we're doing our due diligence. Okay, so that's me, Faith Martin, personally speaking. I'm also here today on behalf of the Racial Profiling Board, which I am the vice chair, and another organization that couldn't be here today, the Kansas Advocates for Racial Justice. I got a lot of comments and feedback after the budget meeting regarding the DEI position, and I know some people have reached out to commissioners as well. I really appreciate, again, how staff and commissioners throughout the budget process had a lot of robust conversation. Every time an issue was debated or something was brought up, it was debated. There was data presented. It feels like when we had the conversation around the DEI position, none of that happened. It felt like it went through really quick. Staff said, my impression was staff said there's going to be some ramifications if we don't keep this. There's no budget, we can't move forward. So I would just hope that we would bring this up for discussion again and have a little more data presented, because it feels like there's some politicization around the word instead of talking about what the impact would really be to Sedgwick County staff and residents when we don't have a robust conversation around that. And just lastly, on kind of that note of DEI, there's a workshop coming up between the Racial Profiling Board and Kansas Racial Justice Advocates, September 28th from 11 to 3. It's called USD 259, Education or Incarceration. It talks about the impact of the settlement lawsuit and the discriminatory suspension and expulsion of Black and Brown and disabled children. And so hopefully we can get some people to attend, and it's just another example of why DEI in our community is so important. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Faith, thank you for your question or for your comments. A few questions. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Faith. We did get your email and appreciate that. I'm reluctant to respond where everyone can see comments back because we're under a coma, so we have to make sure we don't have interactive discussion on emails and that type of thing. But and you're very faithful. You attend the CAB 5 board meetings pretty much every month, at least in the last year or so. And I think before that, I'm not so sure how often you were there, but at least in the last year you've been there very faithfully. We meet once a month, and everything that comes across our agenda book is not discussed in those CAB 5 meetings. We have policies we consider and pass all the time. And this is one of those things, I actually have brought this up at the CAB board numerous times, and the CAB board has not taken action on it. They could have done so. They knew about this. I've talked about it at the CAB board meeting in front of you when you were there. This is one of those things that's been talked about by me for years, actually. And so this is not a new idea. And it's been posted publicly since at least Friday. And anybody who wants to speak to it can certainly speak to it today. And by the way, this is not concrete. We can always change it if we find out it's not right. But with the things that are listed, just to be clear, what's listed in here is Sedgwick County Zoo, Exploration Place, Lake Afton Park, Intrust Bank Arena, Sedgwick County Park, Northeast Park, Kansas African American Museum, Wichita Sedgwick County Historical Museum Association, Sedgwick County Extension Center, Sedgwick County Fair, Riverfest, Wichita Arts Commission, and Mediation Center. Those are arguably not the same as the election office, the jail, the district attorney, our road and bridge program, our county administration. There's a lot of things that are considered core functions of government. We cannot have a county government without them. We must have, they're mandated by the state of Kansas, or they simply, as part of the organization, that you can't run the organization without these things. They're arguably core functions. And there are some things kind of between those two, and I intentionally left them off this list. Things like the Child Advocacy Center or Project Access. There's a number of things that are like that. If you added those things in there, you get very close to $19 million. But this list is only around a little bit less than $14 million. And last year, half of the sales tax was over $19 million. So there's a lot of pad left to fund these things specifically. But this is not just semantics. I'll get into this when we talk about this later on. When we talk to people at the doors, and the number one thing in Kansas right now is property tax discussion. And what are we going to do about property taxes? When they say, cut my property taxes, there are people out there saying, please cut the zoo and exploration place because we want to cut property taxes. They go to the quality of life to be cut. And this provides a revenue stream to protect them. So please understand, this is not being mean. This is actually protective. We can talk about that more when the agenda item comes up. But my point here is your concerns, I understand your concerns completely. And the public has every right to speak to this, but I don't want to hold up. I've been waiting for years to get this before the commission today. Thank you for your comments.
Okay, Commissioner Howe, thank you. I just make one comment on the DEI thing. To be fair, the conversations have been ongoing for better part of 6 months in some of these things. The vote on adoption day was specifically not about programming or curriculum or training. It was about a position on the staffing table in a tight budget cycle. So that there are still conversations happening about how we shape programming, how we shape recruitment, how we shape some of the culture items that we're dealing with in Sedgwick County that have been very favorable here the last few years in particular. But the position on DEI wasn't necessarily about anything on programming. It's about a staffing table conversation. But I do want to assure you that the conversations around this stuff has been ongoing for the better part of 6 months and longer. So I know that the adoption day motion was about the position, but there's broader discussions happening about how we shape what it looks like and the type of programming we want here at Sedgwick County. So, so there have been conversations, to be fair, going on for several months now. So I appreciate you acknowledging. Okay, thank you, Faith. Okay, I'll move to receive and file public comment.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner. Aye. Commissioner Dennis. Aye. Commissioner Howe.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye. Next item, please.
Consideration of minutes, item A, regular meeting minutes of August 7th, 2024.
Okay, commissioners, it looks like both items A and B, all commissioners were present. So if there's no objection, I would like to combine a motion with both of these items. Seeing none, I'll move to approve the regular meeting minutes of August 7th and August 13th, 2024.
Second.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner. Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howe.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye. Next item.
Appointments, item C, accept the resignation of Dave Jones from the Sedgwick County Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Advisory Board.
County Councilor Justin Wagner.
Thank you, Chairman. Justin Wagner, County Councilor. This item, as Madam Clerk read, is to accept the resignation of Dave Jones from the Sedgwick County Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Advisory Board. I would point out, and this is in your backup materials, but Mr. Jones did indicate that it's been an honor and privilege to serve as he's been on this advisory board for the past 21 years. Recommended action is to accept the resignation.
Yeah, thank you. And I do want to publicly acknowledge and thank Dave Jones. He's one of my representatives on the IDD board. This board does incredible work in a complicated and complex, it's a complex board. The challenges they're facing, the recommendations that they're moving through, this is an important seat on an important board. And I appreciate that Dave has contributed the way he has the last several years. Commissioner Meitzer?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I agree. Thank you, Dave Jones, if you're watching. He also is a board member of CPRF, Cerebral Palsy Research Foundation, and does an incredible job with those with physical disabilities that they serve in the CPRF world. So
yeah.
Thanks, Dave, and we'll see you soon sometime.
Yeah, very good. Mr. Jones, appreciate you. Tough shoes to fill. But there is a board seat open on this that I'll be actively trying to recruit and find someone to fit that need. Okay, I'll move to accept the resignation of Dave Jones from the Sedgwick County Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Advisory Board.
Second.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner, Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye. Next item, please.
New business, item E, 2024 District Attorney's Office Pay Adjustment.
Okay, as I previously mentioned, we're going to just move some items around just a bit. We're going to do items E and F before D. We're on item E. Our district attorney is here. Mr. Mark Bennett, welcome.
Thank you. This is something I wanted to speak to you just personally about and answer any questions you might have. As you know, the Office of the District Attorney has had some difficulty over the last couple of years retaining attorneys. Just some context for that discussion. First of all, the County Commission has done me a big favor by helping out with salary adjustments 2 years ago, which helped sort of stem the tide for a bit. But as I stand today, actually, if I had been here yesterday, I would have told you I was at 20% vacancy in the ranks of my attorneys. I'm at 17% today because we actually hired somebody yesterday, so this is good news. But the reality is we're struggling to get attorneys who want to come to Wichita to do this. And the larger context is this, that the Rural Justice Initiative, which is something you can look up on the Kansas Court's webpage for the Kansas Supreme Court, they've done a study. 42% of the lawyers in the state of Kansas live in Johnson County, Kansas, one county. If you add Wyandotte, Douglas, Shawnee, Leavenworth to that, to Johnson, those 5 counties, then it becomes 65% of the lawyers in the state of Kansas live in one of 5 counties. At Sedgwick County, we're doing okay at 15%, but that means then 6 counties house 80% of the lawyers in the state of Kansas. And so it's a small group of people that people are fighting for. And while that may bode well for us that we have 15%, that means that all the counties around us are struggling to get lawyers, which in their response is what I would do if I were them. They raise the salaries. And so, as you know, I've lost lawyers to Harvey County, to McPherson County, to Riley County, and to many other counties around us, and they're getting paid significantly more because they need to pay so much more to get folks to come to these smaller rural counties. So that's what I'm up against. This is not McPherson County, where there are 3, I think, attorneys in the county attorney's office. So if I was the McPherson County attorney, I'd say if you would give me $40,000 a year for these 2 extra folks, I could probably recruit, which would cost the county $80,000. If I do that, we're talking somewhere closer to 1.5 to $2 million, something like that. So that's not reasonable. So what we're asking instead is for the raise that has been contemplated that's been put forth by the county administration between HR and the county manager and others. And I just am here to support that and thank you for this consideration. I know it's a tight budget season, and I know that you said no to a lot of folks within the county structure. I am mindful of that. But the bottom line is, for me to do the job I'm hired to do, I do have to have bodies in courtrooms every day answering the call. I have to have folks who, unfortunately, I can't just hire off the street. I need someone who went to 4 years of college, who then went to 3 years of law school, who then passed the bar and is now willing, after all of that education, to come back and work for the public. And then to devote themselves to the practice of criminal law and or within the subset of criminal law, child needed care, juvenile offender, appellate work, etc. And it's tough work. We don't get paid quite as much as the folks in the private sector, and the rules are myriad. We have to know how to try a case and know how to do it right without setting up an appeal, and it takes a lot. So I'm simply here to tell you thank you for this consideration and how important it is to my folks that you are willing to do this. and I'll stand for any questions you might have.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. I want to make a couple comments, and I'll have a question, then we'll open it up to the commission. So the public is fully aware, we're proposing a 7.6% pay scale adjustment. It'll take the current, the staff attorney 1 position, the starting salary from $74,380 to $80,033. And Lindsay, just give me the nod to make sure you don't have to come up, but there's sufficient budget authority in place for 2024 budget, and the 2025 adopted budget also included this adjustment already, so there's no budget impact incremental. Okay, I wanted to make sure. You and I have talked frequently about the pipeline of lawyers coming into this space. You kind of touched on it. It's a significant brewing crisis, but I want to make it relevant to what's happening in Sedgwick County. You also talk about the workloads becoming unmanageable. Can you help quantify that? How many homicide murder cases are you guys working on right now? I'm trying to understand and quantify the need here.
So in April of 22, we had 136 pending active homicides, folks that were in the system being tried. And I have 56 lawyers in my office. Well, I'm at 46 today. I was at 45 yesterday. Pardon me. I cannot throw 56 lawyers at homicides. I have to have an appellate division. There's 5 lawyers there. I have 5 lawyers who do nothing but handle child native care cases every day. I have 3 lawyers who do all of the juvenile offender cases. I have 2 to 3 lawyers when we're fully staffed who handle the traffic offenses. So you separate all of those folks out, and then that leaves us with 20 to 25 lawyers at any given time who are handling all of the cases. Every kid coming straight out of law school is not ready. All due respect to the law schools, they are not ready to handle homicide cases. They're not ready to handle off-grid child sex offenses. These are some of the highest penalty crimes that there are in our state. And so what I ended up having is folks, and I looked at the numbers yesterday, I have 1 lawyer right now who's covering 20 homicides as we stand here today. And if she only had 20 homicides, that would be one thing, but she doesn't. She also supervises 3 lawyers within the gang unit and the violent crime unit. And she probably has another 100 some odd cases of other kinds herself. And so those are the types of caseloads that we're talking about here. So it's tough to recruit. What I've had people say is the work-life balance is just not working for them. Now, we have thrown, not to say, you got to come up with something better. We have. That was April of 2022. I have talked about this in other settings. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but we've also worked on 2 other dockets, essentially. One is when things were that bad in April of 22, I put out a call to the Bar Association, Wichita Bar Association, asking lawyers, anyone who has ever touched and has qualifications to take on some of these higher level cases, please consider taking 1, 2, 3 cases, something. Anything would help. Many hands make light work. If I could get 10 or 15 lawyers to do that, it would spread it out and it would help, because not only are we stacked up, there's 2 or 3 lawyers on the other side who are handling all of them as well. It's tough for anyone to get things through the system. To their credit, we had a firm of attorneys who took that call, and we have, over the course of the last not quite 3 years now, 2.5 years, worked with them on homicides, and all they're doing is taking homicide cases, and they have resolved I want to say 46 cases, something like that. We are down now, as of a week ago Monday, to 81 pending homicides. So we've gone from 136 to 81. 81 is still a lot. 81 is still far more than we did pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, a bad year was having 50 to 60 pending homicides. So we're still clipping along at a very good pace. But we are at a manageable pace now because we have done, frankly, taken on some innovative ideas and worked with these lawyers. And I could go into frankly, the Supreme Court has asked me to go with the Chief Justice and with Judge Gehring to Indianapolis to speak to a group of Supreme Court and court administrators from around the country to talk about this program that we've done here because it's been so successful. On the other end, we've worked with a law firm here in town who's taken low-level cases, and you know about what we call the resolution docket that was in the basement. It's now up since the renovations has been moved upstairs, we're out of the basement at least. But last calendar year, we ran 650 cases roughly through that docket, over 500 of which resolved there. So about 20% come in and say they don't want to do it. They want to go onto the regular docket. Okay, they're free to do that. The other 500 were resolved between basically 1.5 FTEs out of my office and a law firm is being paid by the bids. My point is we're working at the high end on the off-grid and the felonies, the murders, and we're working at the low end for property crimes and drug crimes, trying to get those cases resolved so there's more, frankly, blue sky and breathing room in the middle to resolve other cases. We are at a pace this year, this calendar year, to try more cases than we have any year since pre-COVID. I think the numbers, I didn't come prepared with that, but numbers this year should hit close to 100 jury trials this year that we're trying. I have an attorney who just finished 3 weeks in a row of homicides and child sex and child abuse cases. We just resolved successfully a murder last Friday that was a year of working with the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department between the time of the homicide and being able to charge it. My attorneys were issuing subpoenas, getting them back, issuing more subpoenas, working this case with them. It's not just a week or 4 or 5 days in trial. It's a year to bring one case to trial and get it ready. So that's as quickly as I can summarize the impact of these kind of cases and the volume that we're handling.
Well, I appreciate that context. A couple questions. Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Mark, thank you very much for being here today. I'm proud of this commission. Over the last couple of years, we've focused on workforce. Compensation has been a big part of that focus. We have to have the staff. Our entire organization is service-oriented. We take care of people. We can't do that without staff. And I know that you and the sheriff have probably two of the most difficult jobs in the county. I wouldn't want either one of your jobs, honestly. But as we focus on staff, we've done, I think, some great things in the past that helped us. For example, last week we had a special meeting, and here a couple years ago we put $200,000 in a fellowship in order to be able to get child psychiatrists. And it paid dividends. We hired a child psychiatrist that we could never have gotten if it hadn't have happened with us putting in the seed money to move that forward. Several years ago, we took a look at our EMS staffing, and we didn't have enough paramedics. So what did we do? We grew our own. Today you saw dividends. There's a man was in our audience today that is alive because of that EMS to paramedic program that we put in place. So we're doing some things, trying to grow our own in a lot of cases. And so I guess my question is, have we thought about growing our own attorneys and seeing what we can do to give some kind of scholarships or something in order to be able to grow our own? You just gave us the statistics. We don't have people here. We need more people here. Is there something that we can do to help in the long term developing the pipeline? So I think that the things that we've done have paid dividends every step of the way. I think there's more that we could do to help other organizations. So I don't know what your thoughts are on growing. I'm not an attorney, so I don't know if that's a possibility or not, but I would certainly support something along that line.
So two things I'll say is historically what we've done is the county commission has historically given us money enough to pay for interns every summer. I need to do a head count of how many of those interns we have subsequently hired in our office, and the number is quite high. It's one of the best programs we can do to identify somebody. It's essentially a 90-day job interview. And you find out quick what somebody's work ethic is and how much, and they also find out if it's really for them. This is not a job for everybody. Some lawyers come into the office for a year or two and go, this isn't really what how I want to spend my days. There's nothing wrong with that. I appreciate that. I'd rather know that than have them wail against the profession for weeks and months and years, and it's not really fit for them. But that has been tremendously helpful for us over years. The bottom line is, I think there's a larger issue going on, and Commissioner Batty and I have talked about that with some other folks, and it's something, frankly, I will probably bring back to this body's attention in the next year or so. But we need to get an opportunity for expanded presence of the law schools down here, and that can mean one of a number of things. Washburn has done a third year anywhere program where you can spend your third year anywhere, third year of law school, and we actually have a job that we've offered to a young man who spent his third year in our office a Wichitan who went back to school later in life, who was a private business owner, decided he wanted to go to law school. And assuming we find out this week, and I expect nothing but the best, but he will have passed the bar, fingers crossed, he will be joining our staff here later this month. And so that's another example. But bottom line is we need to have an opportunity for folks in Wichita who have a desire to go back and continue a legal education to be able to do so in some way closer to home without having to uproot their families and move to Lawrence or Topeka or Oklahoma City, which are the only three opportunities for them anywhere near here. So.
Very good. Well, thanks again, Mark, for being here. If you could put your heads together with Tom and see if there's something else that we can do besides pay to start making sure that we can get the attorneys here in Sedgwick County that we need in order to be able to support you and everyone else that you support. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Commissioner Howe.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. District Attorney, I sure appreciate the work you do. It's not easy. And these numbers are very sobering. I am encouraged. It does appear that you're catching up to the challenge. I don't know if you were to plot that, if you could project, if you will, hit that kind of historic number of 50 to 60 cases in a year or two. I'm not sure what that projection looks like, but going from that historic 132 down to, I believe you said
81.
Pardon me?
81.
81. That's a major accomplishment. And I guess my question is, this vacancy of 6 attorneys, is this a fairly new problem, or is this problem that has been going on for a while?
It's been chipping away at us, kind of building over time. We've not been at full staff for a few years, but it's gotten worse over the last 3 to 4, basically since COVID. What has happened is some of the rural jurisdictions around us have offered significantly more. For instance, I lost a young man who'd worked for us for about 8 months, straight out of law school, and he went to another jurisdiction just north of us and was paid $40,000 a year more than I could pay him. And I can't compete with that. And that's not to say that there are hundreds of those jobs, but there are dozens of those jobs. And because these smaller jurisdictions, because of the numbers I said earlier, if you're a county commissioner in Reno, McPherson, Stafford, Rice, Harvey County, and you have had an open position that has not had an applicant or been filled in 2 or 3 years, your only choice is to ignore reality or to say, what's it going to take to get someone to Lyons, to someone to Harvey County, to McPherson, to et cetera, to one of those towns. You're going to say, let's throw $40,000 for a county is not that much. So they'll do that and draw them away. Where better to get them than from Sedgwick County, where we've already trained them and they know how to come to court and how to handle the cases. So that's been a development over the last 3 to 4 years that we didn't deal with in the first 25 years of my career in this office. We were not losing people to the smaller jurisdictions the way we have been the last 4 or 5 years. And again, I don't blame them. I'm not outing those counties. I don't think any of us standing here could honestly say we wouldn't do the same damn thing if we were them. This is simply a function of what I'm saying, which is the larger context, which is the lack of lawyers other than the northeast corridor of the state.
And you and I talked about this a while back in my office. I just forgot the answer, so I'm going to ask you again. But these 6 folks that are vacant right now, actually, I guess it's 5.
10.
It's 10.
Right now.
Okay. I don't know if you want to talk about the 10 or the 6, but do we have exit interviews to know where they're going? Are they retiring or moving away for other reasons, or is it simply money?
I mean, most of it's money and quality of life. I've lost 2 to McPherson, 3 to Riley, 4 to Harvey County, 1 to a judgeship in the city he'll make 30, 40 grand a year more than he's making working for me. Those are the last 2, 4, 6, 79, 10. Those are the last 10 that I think that we've lost.
And these attorneys that you use, and you have 145 staff total, but they're not all attorneys that
56
do
are the FTEs
56, okay. I mean, you're catching up. I guess I would just wonder, this is a preventative measure trying to keep from losing anybody.
It's retention. Yes,
a retention issue, right. I just was looking at your budget. In 2022, your salary for your office was just a hair over $12 million. In the 2025 budget we just approved, it was $17.3 million. That's an increase of 44.5% over 3 years. I'm just wondering, we've done so much in salaries across the entire organization, including your office. is this, as dust hasn't even settled yet to find out. I mean, you're already getting raises for 25 that hasn't even been realized yet. Do we know we have a problem? I mean, I don't blame you for advocating for more salary. I mean, we all should do that for our employees, but do we know we actually have a problem?
As of yesterday, it was a 20% vacancy. By any definition, that's a problem.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to be supportive of you. I just want to be careful. I'll just say, if every agency in our organization had this type of raise, we'd have to raise property taxes. There is no choice. And just so everyone understands, people wonder why the property taxes are going up. This is why. Not blaming you, but county commission and county government has to fund increases to have staff that does these important things. This is a core function of government. And we can't live under last year's budget or the previous year's budget if we're going to provide this type of salary increase to solve a problem of taking care of our murder cases in Sedgwick County. This is a tax increase. And again, this is actually above, if you will, the average increase for the entire county's budget. So this is actually essentially either going to pull from ending balance or it's going to pull from shifting spending from one organization to the other. But in order to give this type of a raise at this time, especially going, this is starts in 2024. This actually has impact on the 24 budget as well as the 25 budget. So I want people to understand that are interested in the revenue neutral rate. This is the type of thing that happens. I don't know what we're supposed to do unless you want to just devastate some other part of the county. But I appreciate you bringing this to us today.
And to me, this is the private sector at work as well. I'm competing with the private sector. My lawyers can all walk out the door tomorrow and go work for private law firms, hang up their own shingle, and do something else other than work for me. They are marketable. They have a skill that is, trial work is something that anyone would hire them to do. And that they continue to want to work for me for less money and higher stress is, to me, a commendable thing for them. And so I understand absolutely. I don't take lightly that's why I'll be candid with you. County Manager Stoltz said he'd come up here and carry this for me, and I thought, no, I'll stand here and answer for it.
I'll just make a final comment. Again, I want to be supportive. I just want to say we can't, and I'm not saying you'll do this next year, but we cannot continue this. It's almost like a whack-a-mole game. We hit this problem and next problem pops right back up again, and we can't keep up with this. Something's got to stop the game, and at the end of the day, we're gonna deal with your situation today, but we've got to stop because the public cannot support this type of increase in independent departments, because overall it is a tax increase that we simply cannot sustain. But thank you for your comments today.
Very good. Well, thank you, Mark. Appreciate this opportunity to have the discussion. And I think what I want the public to really understand is how this works under the hierarchy of county government. This is the elected district attorney, elected by the people, all the people of Sedgwick County, to perform those functions for the citizens. Our job as the county commission is the authorization of the budget, to deploy the resources, to get the resources that you request. And so the back and forth, the conversations are exactly that happening, this check and balance valve that takes place between the electeds. Our job, we know our role, it's the budget job, you perform the services. And so this is helpful for the community to see how these things work. But we appreciate all the work you do and the work that's happening in your office. So with that being said, I will move to approve the 2024 District Attorney staff recommended pay adjustment.
Second.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner. Aye. Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, next item.
Item F, 2024 Sheriff's Office Pay Adjustment.
Hello, Mr. Sheriff.
Hello.
Good to see you. Again.
Jeff Eastwood with the Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys today. Couple things, starting with the first slide. It is just showing what our 2024 revised budget would be, and then the 2025 budget. Specifically, what I want to talk about is the next slides. If you recall, starting probably 4 years ago, we started asking for raises because of the amount of open positions we had, and we were 7th in our own county as far as pay. The commission has been very gracious over the last 3 or 4 years here of getting us to a point where we can compete again. And we can hire individuals, quality individuals, to come work for the sheriff's office. As you can see, in December 1st of 2023, we're about 11.74% difference with the Wichita Police Department. We're talking only base pay. We're not talking incentive pay. This is just base pay. When the WPD received their raise, 13 some odd percent, we're back to 24% below them. So you can see where the starting pay was. And so with that, we came in at the beginning of the year with a plan because, of course, they have a union over there that negotiates their particular pay raises, and they were asking for a total of 20%, and they're in negotiations right now. And so they received 13.8% of that at the beginning of the year. We came in with a plan of looking at how we can compete with that, because we know in the past, if we've been somewhere in that 11 to 12% range, strictly on base pay, we've been able to somewhat stay competitive with the Wichita Police Department. And so in January of last year, you granted an 8.7% raise, which raised our starting rate to $26.06. Part of that plan was coming back if we had the budget savings within our own budget in '24, which we do, for an additional 2%, and then the plan going forward in '25 and '26 to keep pace with the anticipated 20% raise with the Wichita Police Department. So this is that discussion on the 2% raise for this particular quarter. Current pay, again, we are at $26.06. Currently, prior to, if you vote to give the 2% increase, PD starting at $29.75, which is about a 14.18% difference. The biggest thing that I want to show you is, and it's even better than this graph, if you notice when you started granting those raises, we started outpacing the fact that we were hiring more than we were losing more. That started in '23. As you can see, from 20, 21, 22, we were losing more than we could hire. At one point, we were 137 deputies down inside the facility. That caused everybody on the sheriff's office to have to work inside the facility to make sure we keep that safe and secure for everybody that's involved in the jail. And so this year alone, we're at 74 that we've hired. And that we've lost 39. Of those 39, some of those are folks that have chosen other careers, but some of those are also folks that we hired within the sheriff's office to be commissioned deputies. We lose several people to the police department because they choose to go over there. But you can see that our numbers are getting much better. And in fact, we start a class in detention for 16. We just graduated 15. After September 9th, we're only going to have 26 open positions in the facility. We only have one civilian position open, and we'll only have one commissioned deputy position open. We have a class of 6 that are in right now for the commission side. And so I hope you see that by raising the pay like you have, it has helped us retain and also recruit because we're seeing more people actually applying. There's other things that have gone on within the sheriff's office that I think has helped other than just pay. All of our supervisors at this point receive actual, including inside the detention, from sergeant, lieutenant to captain, all received additional supervisor training either by FBI LEDA, SPI, or some other groups that we bring in to give week-long supervisory training. So we have better equipped, better trained, and that they're treating our people better, supervisors. The other thing, and you've heard me talk about it numerous times, is the health and wellness unit. I'm telling you right now, that has increased our retention by, I can't tell you by the numbers, but I hear from our folks that being cared for and being respected as members of Sedgwick County Sheriff's Office is one of the reasons why they stay. We're the only law enforcement agency in the state of Kansas that has a paid-for therapist working for us. She's extremely busy. We just got an intern from WSU, and they're already booking with her, and they don't even know her. And in law enforcement culture, that's very unusual. Along with our peer support, our mentoring programs, those type of things, people are sticking around longer because we care for them. And so with a combination of those three, I think that's why we're seeing the numbers. But there is no doubt that the pay raises that you've granted in the past is the reason why we're seeing those kind of numbers. The Sheriff's Office in 2024, the request is a cost of 2% pay adjustment in 2024 is $200,000 or $251,000. That will be absorbed from our budget that we currently have. The cost of 2% pay adjustments in 2025 is $933,000. So that's what we're asking for. This is our pay and step plan that shows how the pay and step plan will adjust if the 2% is approved today. So I'll stand for any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Sheriff, for the presentation. A couple thoughts and then a comment and then some questions. Just so the public is aware that this 2% adjustment that we're talking about in this quarter, we discussed that in January. This was part of the discussion, the broader discussion when the 8.7 was authorized. And I'll look to Lindsay again, just a head nod would work. The 2025 budget anticipates this increase of the 2% scale adjustment on January 1st. Let the jury know that the CFO is waving her head yes. So we're acknowledging that. So we anticipated this conversation. This is part of a discussion that's been ongoing for the better part of the year here. So, okay. Other questions or comments for the sheriff? Okay. Seeing none, I'll move to approve the 2024 Sheriff's Office staff recommended pay adjustment.
Second.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner. Aye. Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye. Sheriff, thank you. And
Thank you for your time, and we
congratulations
appreciate it.
on all the progress made on staffing. It is significant.
You guys are a part of that, so we
Thank you, sir.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, next item.
Item D, a resolution ensuring quality of life spending by Sedgwick County government does not exceed sales tax dollars apportioned to ad valorem tax relief.
Okay. From the County Counselor's Office, Mr. Thomas Henry.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thomas Henry, Assistant County Counselor. Since we have briefed each of the commissioners yesterday, there have been a couple changes to this that I'll discuss as we get into this. What this resolution is going to do, so it will use the 0.5% of the sales tax that we currently levy in Sedgwick County as like a cap on what we're going to call quality of life spending. The quality of life spending is defined as discretionary spending on recreational and the enhancement of quality of life for Sedgwick County residents. We specifically call out a number of spending areas in Section 1 of this resolution. The zoo, Exploration Place, our parks, just to name a few. The changes that have occurred in that definition since yesterday, one, we added in that this is a cap on spending of money that is derived from sales or property tax, so that we're not somehow capping spending that is coming from grant funding or donations, things of that nature. Is not going to affect the amount of money that can be spent from those fund sources. The other two things that were added was we excluded economic development spending from the definition of quality of life spending. And we also added that capital improvement spending on Sedgwick County owned assets will not be considered part of quality of life spending. So that's going to, like the zoo is owned by Sedgwick County, to the extent there's a CIP request for the zoo, that would not be considered as spending towards this cap that is going to be that is proposed to be put in place. And the way that the cap is set up, because of the flow of sales tax, it's basically looking back 2 years to see what was collected for that 0.5% that is for property tax relief, and uses that number to set the cap so that we're not having to, take dollars coming in from sales tax and using those. It's all in the general fund. We just have a limit, an upper limit on what can be spent. And that's just an ease of life, or that makes it easier for finance staff to manage this cap that we're putting in place, rather than making it more difficult by having to create a new fund for those dollars and whatever the case may be. And then there's also protections in place for Sedgwick County employees that are funded by quality of life spending that would go to Sedgwick County employees, are not going to be prevented from doing so by this cap that's in place, to the extent that those salaries raise to a point where it would exceed the cap. So with that, I'm going to hand this off to Commissioner Howell to discuss the policy behind it, since this is a resolution that he has requested to bring forward. So.
All right, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Council, for the explanation. So this is an idea I've been talking about for a number of years now, and it should not be new to anybody in the room that's been engaged in this discussion. This is born from a frustration that when we talk to people about property tax dollars, we make the argument that property tax dollars, generally fund things that are super necessary in government. We always talk about public safety and infrastructure as our explanation. If someone argues back and they say, yes, but you're taxing me out of my home, and you're taxing me for things that I don't actually use, I don't actually think is actually core function of government, and they're listed on this page here as great examples of what we're talking about here, I cannot argue back. They are right. We are taxing people from their homes, and the revenues are being used for things that are very discretionary to enhance the quality of life in Sedgwick County. So to address this, I'll just say this: we don't have a fund set up in our finance department. That's something again, it's one of our legislative requests, I think, this next year, is to allow county governments to create funds to manage our dollars within our control. But we don't have that right now. So within Lindsay's, our CFO's financial management, the property tax dollars are intermingled with the sales tax dollars that are available from the 50% of our sales tax revenues. And so just to be clear, we take in this last year about $140 million in sales tax. We share that with all the other municipalities of Sedgwick County. We retained about just under $40 million, and half that goes to road and bridge. The other half goes to property tax relief. And it's interesting they say it that way in the law, because really, if it wasn't for the sales tax, we would take care of our road and bridge program with property tax. And so I see it that all of the money is used for property tax relief. We would use property taxes to fund the very same things that the sales tax is currently funding. So if you live in Wichita, you have through the city of Wichita, because we provide revenue to Wichita government from our countywide sales tax. They have about an 18 mil reduction in the property tax revenue. We see about a 6 mil reduction in our property tax revenue. So for someone who lives in Wichita, they have a 24 mil reduction in property tax revenue because of the sales tax. So that is doing property tax relief. But the question comes in, what is sales tax specifically funding within our budget? And all we say is, well, half of it goes to road and bridge, and the other half just goes to the general fund. It just kind of is mingled with everything else. And that's not a very satisfying answer for a lot of people. And again, there's been lots of discussion in the last year about the revenue neutral rate, and had we wanted to be under the revenue neutral rate, we would have had to cut about $16 million out of our budget this year. We trimmed about $1 million on what we consider to be the cultural and arts part of our budget, and with that $1 million reduction in funding, we heard a lot of people very upset about that. Imagine doing 15 million more of that. That is the go-to place, because I guarantee you, if we have to cut property tax dollars, we're not going to cut the DA and the sheriff or our road and bridge. They're not going to be cut. We have to do those things. In fact, there's other things that are mandated by the state of Kansas we don't really have any discretion over. The election office is a great example. The county appraiser is another. And so the only place we can really cut is our discretionary spending, which, by the way, is this list. So somebody might feel like this is a way to attack these folks by giving them a connection to the economy. I actually view this as a way to protect them. It gives them a revenue stream. You can look at this different ways, I suppose, but what this does, it says that 50% of our sales tax revenue is going to be dedicated towards quality of life, and it lists these things here. This year, according to the 25 budget we just passed, is $13.8 million. We have more than $19 million coming into sales tax this year. I know we're worried about recession, but if recession happens, there should be enough money to cover these things, and if not, we have to make a decision how to handle that, and I'll talk about that in just a second here. But in the past, when economy gets pretty flat, the easiest thing to do is raise property taxes to cover the shortfall, and our taxpayers don't really want us to have that as a card in our hand, so to speak. So what I would ask for is for these entities to tighten their belt if that situation would ever be before us. Although with these numbers, I don't see that that's likely. That would be a significant reduction in sales tax revenue to get to the point where these folks would have to actually tighten their belt. What it does provide for us, though, is not just semantics. I can tell those property taxpayers, your money is not going to fund things that are considered discretionary quality of life issues. They're going to fund things that are absolutely core functions of government. Things like our administration of county government, things like our finance department, our purchasing department, our forensic science, our election office. Obviously, we know road and bridge. We know public safety like the jail, the sheriff's office, EMS, the district attorney, and on it goes. So there's all those things are emergency management we talked about this morning. Those things are considered core functions of government that everyone would argue that if we actually had to raise taxes to fund those things, we would do that. We would raise the mill levy rate if we had to fund those very important things. Are we willing to raise the mill levy rate to fund these things on this list? I would hope we would not. And so there's the difference. There's a litmus test, if you will. Say, are you willing to raise property tax rate, raise property taxes to fund things that are on this list? I would say we probably would not want to do that. That litmus test, my opinion, is really the key behind this resolution. If you don't know what a check valve is, a check valve allows things to flow in one direction but not flow the other way. And I view this as a check valve. What this does, it sets up a check valve. That property tax dollars cannot be used to fund these quality of life entities with two exceptions. The exceptions are we fund our employees with sales tax dollars to the extent they're available. They're in these categories, and if there's not revenues available to fund our employees, we would in fact be able to pull from property taxes as a last resort to fund those that expenditure. And secondly, we want to take care of our buildings that we own. So anything that we own, again, is funded through sales tax dollars first, or if they're in this category list. But if there's not sufficient funds to take care of our buildings or our infrastructure that we have that are within these things, like our buildings at the Sedgwick County Zoo, for example, we would be able to pull from property tax dollars to fund those things. So this does allow for a couple of exemptions. This also allows, for example, if you have a TIF district, and a TIF district says that property tax dollars are used for infrastructure for something specific and it's time limited, if those property tax dollars will flow to those things, that may be discretionary. It's not necessarily a core function of government, but it does allow property tax dollars to be used for an approved TIF district that we approve. So the economic development would not be impacted by this. I think this is really, really important. If you ask people in the community, there are some voices out there that says you need to cut property tax dollars, and you need to do that because the revenue neutral rate law, their go-to place is to cut among this list. So I can't stress that enough. This protects them, gives them a revenue stream that's not property tax dollars. So this is not just semantics. It actually provides protection to these agencies to at least receive funding through sales tax dollars. And if there's any money left over, I'm not suggesting we would just find ways to spend the money over here, but those leftover dollars can be transferred over to property tax relief dollars that are not spent in this fund. We can still use that for property tax relief to the extent that we have leftover revenues in the sales tax revenue fund. So with that, that's essentially what this does. Let me make a couple final points here. 30% of our sales tax dollars are paid for by people who are not from Sedgwick County. So if you visit Sedgwick County and you're spending money in Sedgwick County, you're going to fund these very things that you might be visiting, things like Sedgwick County Zoo. One other thing is I was in the legislature for a few years, and I learned that there's no such thing as a perfect bill. This is not a perfect resolution. And to that extent, it might need to change in the future. We have the authority with a simple majority to amend this in the future. It is a starting point. It gets us going down a path that makes a lot of sense to our constituents. It gives us a truthful comment that says your property tax dollars are not funding things that you may or may not support. They're going to core functions of government. That's now become a truthful statement. Second of all, it is going to be repealed or rescinded by a simple majority by us or any future commission. This does not tie our hands. I guess I had one other point. I don't know if this applies or not, but I was just reading the Kansas Constitution, actually. And it's interesting that it says, one of the articles in here says, lotteries and the sale of lottery tickets are forever prohibited. Why am I bringing that up? Because people find that very surprising. That's in the Kansas Constitution. It says right after that, and a couple paragraphs later, it says, notwithstanding the provisions of Article 3, Section 15 of the Constitution of the State of Kansas, the legislature may provide for state-owned and operated lottery, and it goes on. My point is this: we have a governing board. This is a guardrail. If we find a situation where we really want to vote to jump over the guardrail, I guess we can do that. This has given us ourselves a guardrail. Says this is how we should manage our finances. Does it mean that we are locked in forever? No, it does not. So again, it can be amended, it can be jumped over, it can be rescinded, but this does allow us to be truthful with our constituents when I say we do not tax your property for things that are considered not core functions of government. And that's why this is important today. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'd stand for questions or make a motion at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Meitzner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would agree with the one statement you made, Commissioner Howell, that this is really, really important. It's a little frustrating to me that I know there's been a lot of talk about sales tax recently, publicly and privately, and many, many ideas. And as I've said before, I'm not sure that a sales tax vote is ready for prime time, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't have any idea that we were going to have a motion, and you said that there's been said that we all know everything about this, but on Friday it was on the agenda, and I had mentioned then that I'm not sure what this is about. I need to be debriefed, and we agreed anybody can watch the agenda meeting Friday, and I think Commissioner Dennis agreed that he wanted to be debriefed, and then we had a 3-day holiday, and then yesterday, we got debriefed quickly. And then between Tuesday debriefing and this morning, there's been some more additions. And I've got many, many questions and many thoughts and many what-ifs. And I'm going to make a motion that we defer this until after we fully staff it publicly and allow all of the people that are listed in Section 1 to weigh in if they are supportive or not, or neutral. As has bone citizen, a citizen advisory board ought to review it. That it is truly really, really big, and it's much bigger than a simple motion to take this step right now. So I'm going to make a motion that we staff it and we don't bring this item back up until after we have a staff report or staff meeting.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you, and I'll second that motion. I believe public input is critical to this. I know that property tax is something that is one of the key things that the public is upset about right now. But we've also talked about a legislative agenda coming up where that we're looking at the possibility of having a sales tax that's strictly limited for these types of non-core functions. I don't believe that this idea is ready for prime time right now. What it's doing is it's actually semantics. all the money that comes in from sales tax is fungible money. It just goes into our general fund right now. So we're semantically saying, oh, no, we're going to carve this little part out and say that that part of sales tax isn't going to affect property tax. What it's going to do is go to these non-core functions. But in reality, it's semantics. It's all in the general budget. It's all in our general fund. And so that's why I'll second this, because I think that it requires more public input. I think it requires the commission to get more details on it. And I really thought that we were going to have something on our legislative agenda. I know that this says that if something passes that this is not going to apply, but I would much rather go through the legislative agenda process and move forward that direction. So that's why I second the motion. Thank you.
Okay. Questions or comments? Commissioner Howe.
I find this very frustrating. Again, I have been talking about this for years. Let me just stress that again. I was wanting to do this during the budget cycle, and I was encouraged to push it off. I've talked about this staff meeting numerous times. The reason there were some changes made yesterday was because of comments I had with staff regarding, there was, again, without giving any names, there were some concerns about things like how we're going to take care of our buildings. What about economic development on TIF districts? So we addressed those two concerns. The resolution, as I sent it out last Friday, discussed the issue of paying for our employees. The folks that are on this list, I think they should be less concerned about where the money comes from. They should be concerned about getting their money at all. Again, this is not intended to hurt them. It's intended to give them a revenue stream. And it is not just semantics. I do agree the dollars right now are fungible, and that's part of the problem. This is trying to give us, if you will, a guardrail that separates those dollars within the budget. It says the sales tax dollars do this, and property tax dollars do that. And with respect to the legislative platform, I have been an advocate of going to the legislature, but I can tell you through community discussions since last month or even month before that, this has been destroyed by the media. It's been destroyed by our legislators. They don't understand what we're actually asking for. May you make an argument, once again, we had a 24 mil reduction, if you live in Wichita, a 24 mil reduction because of the 1% sales tax. And if you don't think that's good government, then let's repeal the 1% sales tax. I will never vote for that because I think that 24 mil reduction is necessary. My question was, if that's good government, why can't we go that way a little bit further? Whether we have a new sales tax that funds these things or existing sales tax that funds these things, we're dealing with a sales tax to fund quality of life. And a new sales tax can be used, whether it be existing sales tax that's offset by a new sales tax or if it's vice versa. It doesn't really matter. My point is this, is that a sales tax to offset property tax more actually is what we're discussing with the legislature and in the news. If you believe the 1% sales tax is doing its job and reducing property taxes, again, that 24 mils for Wichitans, and every other Sedgwick County citizen actually has a major reduction as well. If you think that's good policy, then that's why I want to go to the legislature and ask for more of that. But I don't want that to be necessarily derailed by this. And so this does talk about that. I think the other discussion, honestly, is never going to happen. We're never going to get there. This commission would have to vote first before we even go to the legislature, and then try to convince the legislature to do this would be nearly impossible at this point. Because this is being viewed as a new sales tax to raise more dollars to grow government. That's why that has been portrayed, and there's not support for that. And I've always said it's not the intent of the sales tax discussion. The intent of the sales tax discussion is to offset the dependency of property tax, offset dollar for dollar, one for the other. But it's been destroyed by the media. It's been destroyed by conversations around who are misrepresenting what's been discussed. This is not a hard resolution. Again, it can be amended, it can be rescinded, and it gets us started. If you want to kick this down the road, once again, I fear that we're not going to get back to this. I don't think we should. I know we typically support deferrals for a reason, I don't know what's confusing about this today. I've not heard about any specific questions that causes us to say, we need an answer to a specific question. We need to defer it for that reason. If there was a specific question, I would be more supportive of deferring this.
Okay.
I just think it's time for us to move forward, Chairman. Thank you.
Commissioner Meister?
I've got many questions, but one easy question is how many of these groups in Section 1 have been talked to about this? Any of them? No. Okay. That's my first question. So other than that, I've got a whole lot of the questions. So my motion stands. We're going to staff it publicly, transparently, having all the input we need before I make a decision. I may be supportive of it, but I don't want to do it in a vacuum. So, thank you.
Please, Commissioner.
So just, and I appreciate Commissioner Meitzer. Thank you for that. I just want to say, well, there's one motion I did not make last week or 2 weeks ago. The motion was to transfer, if you will, the expenditure from the expiration place, $2 million, to go fund the sheriff and the DA. We just essentially approved nearly $2 million worth of funding today. That's not supported. This is in addition to what we had planned. So it's new spending out of property tax dollars. And we talk about how core functions of government, they are a higher priority than anything else. Things like the district attorney and the sheriff. And I voted for those two things. That's nearly $2 million worth of spending. I had a motion. I did not offer that last week. I actually offered, if you know the actual history, I've actually been trying to help Exploration Place. I could argue that very easily. If you look at my history, you'll know I've been a very big supporter of Exploration Place. But last year, they actually grew their ending balance by over a couple $1 million. And yet we're looking at millions of dollars worth of shortfall in our county budget. Meanwhile, their ending balance is growing. I thought if any 1 year, well, we probably should consider using that money to fund a core function of government, this would be the year to do that. I did not offer that amendment last week or 2 weeks ago. I didn't do that. But let me just say, that's what the future holds, guys. We're going to be pulling from things like Exploration Place to fund the DA. That's where this is headed. If you want to protect those entities with their revenue stream, then this resolution does exactly that. It protects them. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Commissioner Howell, I don't disagree with you on a lot of things, but I don't think that this is ready for us to vote on today. And if you made the motion to approve this, I don't even know if it'd get a second at this time, let alone pass. And it's a lot better if we staff this and make sure that we all understand exactly what's going on before that we make a decision, and we also immediately start working on our legislative agenda so that we can get this finalized in a form that we can all agree on to get it to the legislature for the 1 cent sales tax. So I think you're better off deferring this than trying to force a vote today, because I think a vote today, I'd have to vote against it, and I don't know how many other people would vote against it because of the questions. So I'm not trying to kill it. I'm trying to save it right now. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
You know what? I thank you, Chairman. I appreciate that. I think in an effort to not let this just get kicked down the road and forgotten about, I would either ask you to put a date on your motion, or I would make a substitute motion to add a date of October 2nd.
I would, before we entertain that, I would just say, by and large, if we strip away some of what we're discussing, at its core, I'm supportive of what's happening here. Because at its core, as I've been saying for a year and a half, I want property tax dollars going to the core services, and discretionary cultural arts funding, I do believe, should be funded via a sales tax, whether that's an incremental sales tax or it's the current sales tax that we already have. I know that we get right now, as it stands today, roughly 19 million. This is 13 million. So I'm comfortable that there's a pad there to where those at the zoo and Exploration Place and Interest Bank Arena and TCAM, to where they don't think this is an effort to try to just squeeze them. I'm also comfortable, after conversations yesterday, that there's an exemption to CIP. What we all know is true, if we're honest, is that deferring maintenance on our assets actually costs the taxpayers more money in the long run. So I was fearful that if there was no exemption in here and we had to play under this lid to also do infrastructure CIP, I was fearful there wouldn't be enough and we would actually cause more problems to the 78 or so structures that we have at Sedgwick County Zoo. So I will say publicly that I'm in favor of what this is. I'm also will say publicly that I appreciate that we need to do some work and that we want to make sure people are comfortable. I think by and large, this commission has said, hey, we need to entertain how we're using sources of revenue here, particularly for those that some of us believe are non-core functions or discretionary spending. So I think everybody's there mentally. We just got to figure out how we really kind of tie these shoes up. And I think so I'm okay with the deferring because I do want everyone comfortable. And I want the public comfortable that we have a 1 cent sales tax where there's 50% right now goes to property tax relief. We want to put some guardrails and some framework around that remaining 50%. I'm okay with that. But I want to make sure the public is fully in the loop, and I want to make sure the commission is fully comfortable with it when it's time for the vote. So I'll support deferring. We'll talk about the date, but I also want to get on record that I'm in support of what we're trying to work on here in this resolution. So, Commissioner Dennis.
Thank you. And in regards to the date, that's why I turned my light back on, is that I believe we need public discussion, and I don't know if all of our citizens advisory boards are going to be ready to help us with this by October the 2nd. I think that date is too early. So I think we need to give enough time that we can get this staffed by us first so that we're familiar with it, and then take it to the Citizens Advisory Board after we know what we're doing, because I'm not going to sit in front of my Citizens Advisory Board without knowing exactly what is happening, so that if they've got questions and our staff can't answer them, that I can answer them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I would say too, Commissioner Howe, as we entertain the date, is I'm supportive of a resolution, so this will come back up. So I think it would be fair to make sure that all commissioners and the public has an opportunity to have this discussion and to really vet some of this stuff out. So I think the date of when we're deferring is an important step in this, and making sure everybody's comfortable with the time. 60 days, 90 days, I'm not sure what. This will come up again, though, I can assure you that.
October 2nd is a month away. That's the first Wednesday in October. Today's the first Wednesday in September, so that's a month away. If you only want to go a little bit further out, we could talk about the middle of October. But again, I don't think it should take 60 days, 90 days to deal with this. It doesn't take that long. I'm not quite sure why we would wait that long to have this come back to us. But, and again, let's just say there's some entity, there's a lot of entities listed here. What do we do if any one of these entities thinks, oh, makes me nervous? Then what do we do? Does that give us a reason to vote, to simply drop this whole initiative? This is not just semantics. They need to, I think these entities need to understand their revenue comes from sales tax. And I've said that repeatedly. And that protects them, because right now property tax is under attack. They're going to be attacked. They're going to lose their funding. And it's just beginning. It's going to get worse. So I don't think we don't push this off for very long. We need to settle this discussion because it's in the community. Right now people are advocating to cut the zoo and exploration place to the core, because, talking about all of their funding to go away because of the revenue neutral rate discussion. This protects these entities. I think at the end of the day, we have to have something in place within a couple of months to protect these folks.
Commissioner Meitzer, your motion's on the table. There's a second on the deferral. Since your motion, do you want to consider a time frame that works best for your comfort level and discussion, or?
I'm pausing because I don't know how. In speaking at the debrief yesterday between legal and financial, there was even questions there. Staffing, the manager's back from his trip. I don't know when a staff would happen. I don't know how much engagement needs or needs not to be with the various entities. I know that there's efforts between our memberships on various boards to help try to work with some of these boards to see and challenge their boards to help be less reliant on Sedgwick County government. I think at this juncture, it says those boards don't need to worry about that anymore because we're protecting them under a resolution to guarantee them their money. So why would any of us need to encourage to have those board discussions at high levels, even with some of the boards that are shared with the city of Wichita? So I'm revealing some of the questions and thoughts that really bother me. I've said I've got more than that as well. But so I don't have a date that concerns me. If y'all think you can get it in 2 weeks, that's good luck. It doesn't really matter to me. It's just that we do it the right way. If a deadline's important, then somebody can make a substitute motion on a deadline. I'm just saying we staff it first before we bring it back, and we engage our citizen advisory boards, and that's all.
Commissioner Dennis.
Well, first step is staff, so that we all know exactly what this thing entails and how it's going to work. Second step then would be to take it to our Citizens Advisory Board so we can get some public input on this. And after we get public input, it needs to come back to staff a second time so that we can publicly discuss what we all hear, because all 5 of us have different advisory boards and we're going to come back with different things. So it's going to take 60 days before we can get to that point, 45 at the minimum. So I can't say that we're going to do this in 2 weeks, because that only gets us through staff. It doesn't get any public input. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Ho?
I don't think we'll have a meeting on November the 6th, because the day after the election, we typically skip that date after an election. So our next meeting after that would be November the 13th. May I suggest, please put a date on this as November the 13th, no later than November the 13th. It can come up earlier to be okay.
That's fine. Go ahead and make that substitute motion. I'm not going to do it.
Chairman, if I could ask.
Please, Tom.
Commissioner Dennis, I just want to make sure I'm tracking this. There's nothing in this resolution and this discussion that has anything to do with legislative platform, because our legislative platform is not due until December. But if this is totally not related to platform, then I'm fine with whatever timeline the commission sets forth. But if there is an expectation that this is somehow tied into the platform, that's going to have to be considered.
Okay. Commissioner Dennis?
No, I think this is actually separate from the platform, because if you look at the resolution that he put together, it says if we pass a sales tax through a legislative platform, this resolution is null and void. So I don't have a problem with that. So November 13th, is that the date that you looked at?
Yeah.
I'll make a substantive motion.
No later than.
What's that?
No later than.
I make a motion that we defer this to no later than November 13th.
I'll second that motion. Okay. I appreciate the discussion. Madam Clerk, we have a motion and a second. Will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Beatty.
Aye. Okay. Very good. Next item, please.
Item G, report of the Board of Bids and Contracts, regular meeting on August 29th, 2024.
Okay, Mr. Joe Thomas.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Joe Thomas, Purchasing Director, for the record. The report of the Board of Bids and Contracts that met on August 29th has 2 items. Our first item is polymeric composite micro overlay for Public Works. This recommendation is to accept the quote from Andale Construction Incorporated in the amount of $54,179.36. And our final item is 2 minivans, Fleet Management, Health Department, and County Mailroom. Recommendation is to accept the lowest responsive bid from Parks Motors in the amount of $89,002. So I'll be happy to try to answer any questions you may have, and I recommend approval.
Okay, thank you, Joe. We have 2 items on bid board. Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to approve the recommendations of the Board of Bids and Contracts.
Second.
A motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye.
Thank
Joe,
you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Let's pause for a second, the BOCC meeting, and call to order the governing body of Fire District Number 1. Madam Clerk, first item, please.
Roll call. Commissioner Meitzner.
Present.
Commissioner Dennis.
Present.
Commissioner Howell.
Present.
Commissioner Lopez.
Present.
Chairman Beatty.
Present. Next item.
Public agenda.
No one had signed up to speak public agenda for the fire district. Next item.
Consideration of minutes. Item A, fire meeting minutes of August 7th, 2024.
All commissioners were present for this meeting. Any questions on the minutes? Questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll move to approve the fire meeting minutes of August 7th, 2024.
Second.
Motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye. Next item, please.
Appointments. Item B, resolution appointing William J. Bryant to the Sedgwick County Fire District Number 1 Steering Council.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Justin Wagner, County Councilor. This item would appoint William J. Bryant to the Sedgwick County Fire District Number 1 Steering Council as recommended by Fire Chief Doug Williams. This is the aircraft manufacturing position, for which there's currently a vacancy. The recommended action is to adopt the resolution.
Okay, very good. Appreciate this recommendation. And I will move to approve the appointment of William J. Bryant to the Sedgwick County Fire District Number 1 Steering Council.
Second.
Motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye. I don't believe that Mr. Bryant is here, so clerk's office will get in touch with Mr. Bryant to make sure all the paperwork's processed. Next item, please.
Item C, resolution appointing Jesse Miller to the Sedgwick County Fire District Number 1 Steering Council.
Mr. Wagner.
Yes, and this is another appointment to that same steering council. In this case, it is Jesse Miller, as recommended by Chief Doug Williams. This is the City of Bel Air specific appointment to that, for which, again, there is a vacancy. The recommended action is to adopt the resolution.
Very good. Yeah, we expected this one coming. Appreciate Mr. Miller serving this capacity. So I'll move to approve the appointment of Jesse Miller to the Sedgwick County Fire District Number 1 Steering Council.
Second.
Motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye. Next item.
Consent agenda.
Mr. Stoltz.
Chairman and Commission Tom Stoltz, County Manager's Office, recommend approval of consent items D through F on the fire agenda.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I probably should have noticed this before. And I'm not trying to cause trouble here, but this policy refers to Sedgwick County employees throughout. It should say Sedgwick County Fire District Number 1 employees. Does it matter?
There is, I'm looking back at Sheena, but there is a counter, this policy is also on the general agenda. Is it in backup or?
It's in the backup, and that's what I'm wondering is, it refers to Sedgwick County employees as a fire district policy. That's not the same governing body. Do we want it to say Sedgwick County Fire District Number 1 employees? Because it is, I feel like we had a cut and paste here, a copy paste. It wasn't necessarily edited
I'll
for
look
the
at
fire
Justin
district.
I hear you, but let me see what council says.
And let me clarify specifically, Commissioner Howell, where in it, I mean, it does, I know that it references Sedgwick County employees. I do see also within the policy certain references to the fire district as well, to, in particular, I'm looking at the policy statement on 3, it mentions the governing body of Fire District Number 1. Is your concern that it just generally is the same as the county's policy?
What I'm saying is that it wasn't tailored for the district. It was simply, obviously, a copy paste from the county. And again, when it talks about, Sedgwick County, almost every paragraph in here refers to the county or county employees versus district. I'm just saying there's probably a lot of places in here it should be edited. Maybe this is something that's very normal. I've not noticed this before. Maybe this is not a big deal. I guess I just like to point it out before we adopt it, that there is references to the county organization, not the district organization throughout this document.
And Commissioner Howell and Lindsay had indicated this, that, from the financial standpoint, as an organization, the county fire district employees are considered in the fire district itself as a component unit of Sedgwick County. And so if there's a policy that's been adopted by the governing body of the fire district applying to employees, then I believe that would also apply to fire district employees. I don't think that means it wouldn't apply to them. That's something if in the future in drafting we could consider if there would be a need for that change, but I don't think there's legally a reason this would apply to them, especially when the governing body for the fire districts adopted it.
All right.
Okay. Good, Justin? Good to go. Commissioner Howell, good? Okay. I'll move to approve consent agenda items D through F.
Second.
Motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez. Chairman Beatty.
Aye. Next item, please.
Other.
Other commissioners. Seeing none, next item.
Executive session.
No executive session for the fire district, so we'll officially adjourn the fire district and resume back to the Board of County Commission meeting. Madam Clerk, next item.
Consent agenda.
Mr. Stoltz.
Chairman and Commissioners, Tom Stoltz again recommending approval of consent items H through S on regular agenda.
Commissioners, any questions on the consent agenda today? Seeing none, I'll move to approve the consent agenda items H through S.
Second.
Motion and a second. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner.
Aye.
Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Next item.
Committee reports.
Okay, Commissioners, any committee reports you'd like to share with the public? Seeing none, next item.
Other.
Anything we'd like to discuss under other? Commissioner Meitzner.
I just want to mention a congratulations to the community when the McConnell Air Show was fantastic. And I appreciate us teaming with the city and the chamber and who else we did. We teamed with, but we had a good chalet there and it was well attended and it showed Sedgwick County being part of the whole community on this. And the McConnell team and did just a fantastic show. Too bad Sunday was destroyed. So, Paul, sorry for that, for those who were planning on coming Sunday, but Saturday was an incredible day, a good community day. So congratulations once again on the City of Wichita and Sedgwick County pulling off a great event.
Yeah, very good. Very good, thank you. Commissioner Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to, inform the public and my colleagues that I'm working on another guardrail. I wanted just to bring it up because I think we need to have a discussion about how to build our budget. We just got through our budget process, and essentially we allowed the assessed value once again to kind of guide our budget process. And I think that we have that standard process. We didn't capture the entire mill levy rate, but even though that's true, we're still being mocked in the media because it was such a tiny haircut, if you will. The opposite of that would be to do the revenue neutral rate to stay revenue neutral from a previous year's budget, which I personally think is it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that we could stay under some previous year's budget forever. Even if you did it for 1 year or 2 years, eventually you've got a problem. And once you break through that revenue neutral rate threshold, there is no reason at that point not to capture the whole increase. A lot of governments did do that. They made the motions and passed through the revenue neutral rate process, and they went back and captured the entire assessed value increase. I would like to see the county develop a different process entirely, and that would be to essentially adopt what I consider to be very similar to the state's tax lid that we had. I think it was repealed in 2019, if I remember the right year. Senate Bill 13 was essentially to fix a tax lid that wasn't working, in their opinion. One of the problems with the tax lid was there was an exemption for public safety. And what that means is that counties or municipalities would pull money out of public safety because, again, money's fungible, pull money out of public safety to fund pet projects, they would say, and they would then increase taxes to cover to backfill the public safety. And so this became a way to not have to really deal with the tax lid. It wasn't very effective. I would like to see us develop, if you will, an internal guideline, a guardrail, that helps us build a budget based on consumer price index, new construction, and population growth. And we have a calculation from staff that says, had we done this, it would have created a 4% average increase, so year over year in our property tax funds. You might wonder, well, where are we today relevant to that point? And I would like to tell you that over the last 5 years, had we had the tax lid in place, I'm not suggesting we would go there. I think that, again, this just shows the conservative fiscal management of Sedgwick County, but they would have allowed for $12.6 million in addition property tax dollars to be levied. I don't think that's where we want to be. I don't think I'm not suggesting we would do that. But I am suggesting a disconnect from the assessed value of Sedgwick County. I don't want that to drive our process. I want consumer price index to drive our process. And anyway, I'm asking Lindsay and staff to help me develop a proposal for another guardrail. And as we talk about the previous motion today on the use of sales tax dollars for quality of life, I think if we can catch this one up, I would like to have a dual conversation about this. I know this is not as easy to get it ready to go right now, but since we're having discussions about the other guardrail, this guardrail I think is relevant. So I'm not asking staff to jump through hoops, but if there's any way to get this idea in front of the commissioners sooner than later, it might be valuable for us to have that conversation. And what that does is, I listened to the City of Wichita as they debated their budget. They had two choices, much like many other governments had two choices. They could have directed staff to come up with different options, but most governing bodies didn't do that. They said, well, we either can capture the increase or we can live under the revenue neutral rate. There's nothing in the middle. And I would like to advocate for something in the middle. And what this does is it gives us something that's based on the economy itself, not necessarily housing prices. It's based on the economy. And what this does, it gives us a reasonable argument for how fast government should grow. It gives us another option to say we should only grow at this particular rate. It gives us something to live under. And I would recommend we still try to live under that significantly if we can, but it's something between those two endpoints we have today. And with that, I just want my colleagues to know this is something I'm working on. If you have any comments or questions, please, reach out to staff, reach out to myself. Without breaking coma, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate that, Commissioner. Anything else under other? Okay, seeing none. Next item.
Executive session.
Okay, we do have executive sessions today. Commissioner Lopez.
I move that the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive session for 30 minutes until 11:27 for the consultation with legal counsel for the county regarding matters being privileged in the attorney-client relationship in order to discuss legal claims against Sedgwick County. And that the Board of Sedgwick County Commissioners returns to this room from executive session at 11:27.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner. Commissioner Dennis. Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye, we'll return 11:27. Okay, we are on. Returning back from executive session, no binding action taken. We do have some more business that comes before the commission. Commissioner Lopez.
I move that the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive session for 15 minutes until 11:45 for consultation with legal counsel for the county regarding matters deemed privileged in the attorney-client relationship in order to discuss acquisition of real property for the use of Sedgwick County departments, and that the Board of County Commissioners return to this room from executive session at 11:45.
I'm sorry to interrupt, and I apologize. I think there was something that I should have noticed in drafting that. So first, I want to apologize to the board. That should have been worded differently, and I would ask if you'd give me a recess for 5 minutes or 10 minutes to come up with a new, if that's okay with the board. That wasn't the language.
Totally permissible, because we're running ahead of schedule today, Justin, so that's totally good. So we're going to recess for 5 minutes.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Kevin, return if we can. Okay, folks, thanks for your patience there. Want to make sure we had all the paperwork documented correctly and we were saying the right things. So there is more business that needs to come before the commission. Commissioner Lopez.
I move that the Board of County Commissioners recess into executive session for 15 minutes until 11:50 for preliminary discussions relating to the acquisition of real property for the purposes of discussing the potential purchase of land and buildings for use by county departments, and that the Board of County Commissioners return to this room from executive session at 11:50.
Okay, very good. I'll second that motion. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Meitzner. Commissioner Dennis.
Aye.
Commissioner Howell.
Aye.
Commissioner Lopez.
Aye.
Chairman Beatty.
Aye. Okay, we'll be back soon. And we have just returned from executive session. No binding action taken by the commission. Any business that needs to come before the bench before we adjourn? Seeing none, we are officially adjourned.